Hi, and welcome to the next session. Today we're going to be looking at how to reduce toxin exposure and to increase antioxidants. We're going to cover household cleaning products, personal care products. We're going to be talking about ways that we can make changes in the kitchen, and we will also look at the shopping experience and how to make it a healthier one. So beginning with household cleaning products, we'll look at cleaning chemicals and we'll look at alternatives. Moving to personal care, we're going to look at the question, would you eat what you put on your skin? And then looking at what sorts of things you need to look out for in your personal care products. Looking at cleaning chemicals first, the concern is, although these products are great at cleaning in the sense that they make something spotless and free of any sort of bacteria, when you look at the concept of the microbiome, you start to appreciate that if you want to keep a good system of beneficial bacteria in the body, you don't really want to go killing these bacteria with products that you clean your house with. So anything that you're exposed to on a day-to-day basis has the potential to harm the microbiome or to actually improve it. All of these commercial products will contain chemical toxins, and around 84,000 chemicals are used in cleaning products today, but only around about 200 are tested by the FDA. Of course, after using these chemicals in the home, what you're doing is then absorbing the air that's going to have some of these chemicals floating around in it. So the lungs are going to have to deal with that. You might touch a surface that's recently been cleaned, and so you're going to be absorbing some of those chemicals through the skin. And then you may unwittingly put your hands in your mouth or somewhere near your eyes or any mucus area or moist area, and you will therefore be absorbing those chemicals through the skin or that orifice or in your mouth, which means that the liver then has to process it. So you're making more work for those detox organs. They also have negative, long-lasting impact on internal and actually external environment. So these are not benign products. What are your alternatives? Because of course there are alternatives out there. You could potentially make your own products, which is not that difficult, or you could, any number of companies have sprung up. One of my favorites is actually Ecova, and I order directly from them in bulk, which is actually a pretty nifty way to do it. Bicarbonate of soda is an alkaline compound and it neutralizes odors and cleans surfaces. You could use a citrus seed extract and essential oils which offer antimicrobial properties. So you could add a little bit of some kind of essential oil into a water bottle, for example, and spritz. You could use acidic substances like lemon juice or white spirit vinegar. Those are natural sterilizers. Let's move on from household cleaning to personal care products. We're talking about everything you really expose your body to when it comes to grooming, whether it's moisturizers or cleansers, shampoos, conditioners, toothpastes, mouthwashes, makeup, nail varnish, anything relating to nail extensions, hair dyes. These are all the things that will affect the body in some way, unless, of course, they're completely clean in the sense that they are not going to contain any chemicals. These days, you can definitely find eco-friendly versions that are just as efficient, just as effective as the standard products available out there. This question, would you eat what you put on your skin? It's actually a very good question because everything you apply to your skin is going to be absorbed by the liver. So, a coconut oil would be a great moisturizer, something that just doesn't have any chemicals in it, that doesn't have any preservatives, stabilizers, thickeners, those sorts of things would be ideal. The skin absorbs everything that we touch. So over half of our products applied end up in the bloodstream. And many of these are hormone disruptors. They contain heavy metals. They've got chemicals in them. And some of those are carcinogens. Personal care chemicals are not tested for safety. And it does seem to be a very, very underregulated industry. Your risks in this regard are breast cancer, asthma, autism, and reproductive problems. But as I've said, there are many options available as alternates to the usual suspects. this is a very long list. These are the chemicals you really don't want to be bringing in and applying to your body. So I would urge you to have a look and notice if any of these are in your personal care products. Now, whether you want to just bin them or finish them before you buy an alternate to the product itself, I don't know. That's obviously up to you. But for sure, you should try and avoid buying any in the future now that you know. Moving into the kitchen, we'll look at cookware and your ideal choice in that regard, microwave ovens, food storage. We'll go through misleading labels, what to watch out for, and that relates to your shopping experience. What are genetically modified organisms? What is organic? Because that's a label that's thrown around a bit. And then the benefits of eating organic. In terms of cookware, you definitely want to use glass or stainless steel or some sort of toxic-free ceramic. And by the way, ceramic isn't, my understanding is that it's not necessarily all toxin-free. So you want to seek out labels or brands that are specifically labeled toxin-free ceramic. Those for pots and pans, because of course you're heating the food in those, and so you want to make sure that you've got a fairly inert product that is not leaching any kind of chemical or any kind of compound into your food. Teflon is a pretty bad one. It releases something called PFOAs, which are, let me see if I can pronounce this correctly, perfluorooctanoic acid, which is a surfactant. And these are actually linked to cancer, hormone disruption, and increased risk of heart disease and stroke. Cooking in aluminium, including foil, results in leaching and can damage the nervous system, kidneys, and bones, and is linked to male infertility. My generation was kind of the aluminium generation. We were raised on using aluminium cookware because it was kind of new and cheap and lightweight and brilliant. And I have a note here to say, according to Professor Christopher Exley of Keele University, aluminium-containing products are likely fueling the rise in Alzheimer's disease. Microwave ovens. Microwaves pass electromagnetic waves through food, stimulating molecules and creating heat through friction, essentially, or movement. Research is quite clear that the value of food is decreased substantially by being microwaved. You know, if it was just to heat up a cup of coffee that's gone cold or something fairly benign and irregularly, you would probably be safe. But if you're using a microwave regularly, you are looking at higher rates of digestive disorders, and a gradual breakdown of systems of elimination, increased rates of stomach and intestinal cancers, an elevated risk of cancer cell formation in the blood, and lymphatic disorders leading to decreased ability to prevent certain cancers. A client of mine, after discussions, she decided to not bin her microwave, but she moved it into the garage. She thought she'd deal with it at a later stage. And she said every now and then she'd hear this microwave ping, and she was sure that it was hers, but she couldn't work out how it would be until one day she was walking past, the garage was attached to their house, and she was walking past and she popped her head in because she heard the ping, and there was her husband standing warming up his cup of coffee in the microwave that he plugged in the garage. Actually, one of the reasons I bought a microwave, and it goes to this topic in particular, I went out and purposefully bought a microwave because at the end of every day I would make them wet, squeeze them out, but my dishcloths and my sponges for cleaning the sink, I would put it on 2 minutes high power every day because it was a great way to just kill all pathogens. So I would use it as a sterilizer, but I wouldn't use it for anything, or not for much else. Food storage. Plastic chemicals leach into food served and stored in it and are linked to things like tissue changes, genetic damage, chromosomal errors, miscarriages, birth defects, premature puberty, and hormonal disruption. Exposing plastic containers to high temperatures through boiling water or through the dishwasher can increase the leaching effects. If you are using plastic, it might be better to not put it in the microwave and then to use it for foods that are not particularly very high in fat, because it tends to be that the more fatty a food is, the more those chemicals will tend to leach into the foodstuff. Try rather to use glass or stainless steel and avoid using plastic food wrap because it's so soft and so contains, my understanding of it is that it's going to leach chemicals very, very easily into the food that it's wrapped around. And you don't really want to be using, a plastic plate. If you put hot food on it, you're immediately heating the plastic. That releases the plasticides. It then gets absorbed into the food or released into the food. So as much as possible, stainless steel, glass, or ceramic, obviously your standard porcelain plates. Moving on to labeling. I've had lots of clients who have been very, very confused by, well, what is free range versus organic versus natural, and then there's healthy. Hormone-free is another one. The label healthy should mean nutrient-dense food, naturally occurring, because many processed foods, including organic, are called healthy, but actually their alteration impacts on nutrient quality, and they have to be fortified with certain nutrients so that they are recognized and able to be used by the body. Natural. This label suggests that these foods are those that haven't been augmented with additives or exposed to chemical processes, so they are literally in their natural state. Free range means that the animal has had access to natural light daily. Even better is when they're not enclosed in anything. Hormone-free, this doesn't mean that the animal is fed natural foods or that it's not routinely given antibiotics. It simply means that they weren't given hormones. Genetically modified organisms. Consuming GM foods can damage the pituitary gland and your gut lining, lead to alterations in reproductive hormones, trigger breast, ovarian, colon, testicular, and prostate cancers, and affect gene expression through GMO particles, making their way into organs. So they migrate, these GMO particles, and that is very significant when it comes to this idea of changing gene expression. GM seeds can't reproduce, so farmers are dependent upon the companies that create them, leaving food security in the hands of a few corporations. Moving on to organic. These are foods that are grown or farmed without conventional pesticides, synthetic fertilizers, hormones. There are no routine antibiotics given or genetically modified organisms used. There should be no chemical food additives, no artificial sweeteners, colorants, flavorants, or preservatives added to these foods. The certifying body requires humane animal rearing practices, typically speaking, healthy living conditions, free-ranging access to outdoors, and a chance to graze on organic feed with minimal and humane transportation to approved abattoirs. It's a very comprehensive requirement involved in being able to call something organic, depending, of course, on the certifying body. They use natural fertilizers and weed control methods and pesticides that utilize natural components or compounds with pest repellent properties. Or in some cases, they will be using permaculture principles, which means that, in fact, they will plant things in a certain way with companion planting and certain shrubs and trees and flowers and things put around the produce so that bees or ladybirds or generally that insects that might attack crops would be kept to a minimum. What are the benefits of eating organic? Because this is a question that's asked by many because it's typically more expensive than conventionally farmed or raised food. It reduces your exposure to pesticides by up to around 30%, which I think is quite significant. In meat eating, it lowers the risk of infection by antibiotic-resistant bacteria by 33%. Organic farming contributes to better soil and water quality, a reduction in pollution, more humane approach to livestock rearing. It contributes to support for a natural self-sustaining ecosystem and elimination of GMO risk, which of course we've discussed. Here are your takeaway tips, which will be useful to stick up on your fridge or somewhere where you can access them. There's some good practical stuff in here. So I'm not suggesting you dump everything that you've got in your home and start again, but you might want to, just as you run out of something, think about replacing it with something greener, something that's going to be both externally friendly and also internally friendly in terms of the environment. So thank you, and I will see you for the next session.